This week on Vaticano, we take a look back at October's Synod of Bishops on the Family. For 3 weeks, over 300 cardinals, bishops, priests, and lay faithful gathered in Rome to discuss the vocation and mission of the family in the Church and in the contemporary world. The world took interest in the meetings. After 3 weeks of study, the Synod participants produced a document to give the Pope counsel on his guidance of the Church for the years to come. Stay with us. You're watching Vaticano.
The Synod events started off with a candlelight prayer vigil on October the 3rd in St. Peter's Square. It was presided over by Pope Francis. He called on the Synod Fathers to listen to families, including the Holy Family, over the course of their deliberations. Looking out into the darkened square filled with candlelight, the Pope reflected on the symbolism of the candle in the dark, in reference to the difficulties we face throughout our lives. The next day, he celebrated Mass in St. Peter's Basilica to officially open the Synod. In his homily, he once again set the tone for the meeting, telling participants that the union between man and woman is the foundation of God's plan for the family and a solution to the many forms of loneliness in today's world. On the following Monday, the real work began inside the Synod Hall. Pope Francis addressed all the participants in his opening remarks, warning against politicizing the Synod and encouraging them to give the Holy Spirit space to carry out his actions. The Pope concluded by reiterating that the function of the Synod is not to arrive at a consensus, nor is it a place of negotiations, agreements, or compromises. There were 270 Synod Fathers and 48 other participants, including 18 married couples from all over the globe, truly representing the universality of the Church. First, the participants listened to a brief 3-minute speech by some, but not all, of the Synod Fathers. Then, for the next 2.5 days, they met in small groups to talk about Part 1 of the working document, known as the Instrumentum Laboris. There were 13 language groups, each with some 20 members. They've reviewed, analyzed, and commented on Part 1 of the Instrumentum Laboris and come up with changes, additions, and amendments to that text. On Friday of the first week, the summaries of each of those 13 small circles were presented to the entire Synod body, and then to the 10-member special commission that Pope Francis set up to draft the Synod's all-important final document, the Relatio Finalis. Those summaries were also published on the Vatican website. The topics discussed include divorce, communion for the divorced and remarried, natural family planning versus contraception, and couples who live together but are not married or are simply civilly married. These topics sparked lively debate in the weeks that were to come. The Synod on the Family came just off the heels of the World Meeting of Families in Philadelphia. It was a celebration of the family in the U.S. just before the weeks of study on the family in Rome. Pope Francis was there in America, present for the moments of political representation, reflection, and being together with families from all over the world. Archbishop Charles Chaput hosted the Pope there in his archdiocese, and he also participated in this year's Synod. He shared his impressions and hopes with us while here in Rome.
You know, I've met bishops I've never met before. I heard about some of them before coming here, and it's always a joy to meet them personally, and also to hear their reflections about the Church and how the Church is either growing in their country or struggling. One of the points of encouragement is that the bishops from Africa all have very positive things to say about the growth of the Church and the embrace of the traditional Catholic understanding of family and marriage on behalf of their people in cultures that sometimes have been polygamous and have gone in other directions. So there's a lot of very encouraging things going on in the Synod, as well as the difficult things that people read about in the newspapers.
The initial document guiding the discussions was reviewed and ultimately taken apart to be corrected and amended. With about 1,300 requested modifications, it became the closing document, the Relatio Finalis. This process obviously wasn't without its challenges.
The most difficult part is taking the document that's been given to us and spending hours reflecting on it together in these small groups and trying to say things more clearly or even sometimes understand what the document's saying. We have an English translation of the original Italian, which is the official document, the Italian version. And those who know Italian say our translation's not very good. So we've even spent a lot of time talking about what does this really mean, because we don't have a clear translation. So that's been very frustrating. If you've ever tried to edit a piece of work done by a committee, but to edit it as a committee, you can see the complication of this. We have, like I said, 21 bishops responding to what other bishops said and trying to make it clearer or rewrite it. And that's been very difficult to do.
Pope Francis took a major role, not just in the discussions, but as a symbol of unity of the Church in its different cultural contexts.
The faith isn't regional, the faith is Catholic, it's universal. So when it comes to matters of faith and morals, I don't think that can be, responsibility for that can't be delegated to regional bishops' conferences or national bishops' conferences. I think in all cases there should be a reference to Rome. Rome doesn't have to control it from the beginning, but you know, the unity that we seek in the voice of St. Peter, you know, represented by Pope Francis, is a word that calls us to unity of faith. That's the role of the Pope, to hold us together. And I think that continues on all the issues, even when some responsibility on those issues is given to regional or national conferences. So I think the role of Rome is very important all along, throughout the whole thing.
Week 2 on the Synod of the Family was marked by long hours for the participants, as well as a couple of headlines for the media. On Monday of the second week, the alleged contents of a letter addressed to Pope Francis and signed by 13 cardinals was leaked to the press. In the letter, the signatories supposedly expressed concern about the working document, as well as the Synod processes, which had been revised for this year's gathering. Each day of the Synod meetings began at 9 a.m. and ended at 7 p.m. There were 13 general congregations, 10 minor circle sessions of 13 language workshops, and 2 submissions of written reports of the results of those small group sessions. The participants tried to find a way of presenting the Church's teaching on the family to a world with diverse pastoral needs. One region, Africa for example, faces the challenge of polygamy, while in the West issues like same-sex unions constitute a more pressing problem. Some were concerned that if the language that comes out of this synod is not clear, it could lead to shaky pastoral practices once the bishops get home and implement pastoral programs. Some of the small group reports expressed concern about their ability to conclude discussions by the end of the third week. Post-synodal declarations usually take a year to write after the synod concludes, so further discussions on this throughout the Church could be possible. Also making headlines in the second week was Pope Francis' apology for unspecified recent scandals in Rome and the Vatican at Wednesday's weekly general audience. When asked about the Pope's remarks, Vatican spokesman Father Federico Lombardi said it was not up to him to interpret the Catholic leader's words. Father Lombardi said that the Pope wanted to extend a hand to followers who are disturbed or pained when they learn of scandals. Week 2 of the Synod on the Family came to a close, and the already tired Synod participants were getting ready to face the most important third week. The week also wrapped up with 2 non-Synod-related events. One was a celebration on Saturday of the 50th anniversary of the creation of the Vatican Synod office. And on Sunday, Pope Francis declared 4 new saints for the Church, 2 of whom were Louis and Zélie Martin, the parents of St. Thérèse of Lisieux. It's the first time that a couple has been declared saints in the same ceremony. Relics of St. Thérèse and her parents have been on display inside the chapel of the Synod Hall every day, inspiring the Synod Fathers as they proclaim that the Catholic Church is anything but a relic. Not every bishop of the world could participate in this synod, yet all of them have to face the challenges for the families in their diocese. We had the chance to sit down with the head of one of these dioceses, Bishop James Conley of Lincoln, Nebraska, who shared his hopes with us.
Well, I hope that the synod will take up this very important topic, marriage and the family, and the challenges that we face today in modern families, Christian families, Catholic families. And my hope is that the synod will the Synod Fathers will, and the Holy Father together will be able to present the Church's teaching a very clear, beautiful way with new enthusiasm, new impulse, new, you might say, kind of like the new evangelization, you know, not changing anything because we have such a beautiful teaching on the family, whether we talk about marriage or family life, to present that again with all the beauty and the splendor and the truth that our teaching has, without, you know, minimizing the tremendous challenges and difficulties that families face today through secularism and through the sexual revolution and all the other things that fall from that, divorce, abortion, contraception, all those issues which I think go to the heart of the challenges of the family today.
Bishop Robert Morlino of Madison, Wisconsin also explained that a fundamental element of the pastoral care for couples is a well-rounded marriage preparation.
Well, of course, we need encouragement for our people who are married to stay faithful and to stay married. And the idea of marriage preparation improvement is something that would be key, because the reason why so many people get married and then seek divorce and seek a degree of nullity is simply because the things that need to be basically clear were not made basically clear in their marriage prep.
A fellow American bishop, Archbishop Jose Gomez of Los Angeles, was in the Synod Hall this year. He emphasized the importance of having a good pastoral care for people in the situation of divorce, that have civilly remarried.
In my archdiocese, we have really good ways of ministering to people in that situation. We got a very efficient tribunal, so we are able to reach out to people in that way. And also, we are always welcoming everybody to come to church. I think what it was beautiful, and a lot of people don't know that really the church is always welcoming everybody. So I think the teachings of the church are clear on that. And I hope that it is clear to people out there that we really need to be merciful, but at the same time that the teachings of the church are clear.
Just a few impressions of the vast plethora of hopes and challenges in this historic synod.
Not just bishops and cardinals gathered to discuss about the family. The youngest synod member was a baby. He is the youngest of 12 children, and his parents were proud participants of the synod. We are Massimo and Patrizia Poloni, a family of the New Catechumenal Way, and on a mission in Holland for 11 years. We have 12 children. The oldest is 19 years old, and this one with us is 3 months old. The Cardinals named him the newborn of the Synod. I believe that he is the first toddler to enter the Synod Hall. We are very thankful to the Holy Father to have given us the possibility to be here.
We hope that with this Synod, the beauty of the Christian family can be rediscovered. There are many Christian families who live happily and in fidelity within their marriage and have the joy of having a house full of children. All of that despite our difficulties. We are simple people, weak, and with our own struggles.
So maybe the infant could collect first impressions of how the bishop's synod work. Who knows, he may also have a vocation to the episcopate in the future.
Week 2 of the synod was closed with a mass and canonization of 4 individuals, including a saintly couple, Louis and Zélie Martin. The couple is famous for being the parents of Saint Thérèse of Lisieux, known as the Little Flower. She bears the title Doctor of the Church. During his homily, the Pope pointed out that this couple is an example for families worldwide.
I santi coniugi Ludovico Martin and Maria Celia Guerin.
The holy spouses Louis Martin and Marie Azélie Guerin practiced Christian service in the family, creating day by day an environment of faith and love which nurtured the vocations of their daughters, among whom was Saint Therese of the Child Jesus.
Tra cui Santa Teresa di Gesù Bambino.
The first ever canonization of a couple together was of particular importance within the context of the Synod on the Family.
I wouldn't say a coincidence. It is a wonderful thing that we are discussing the vocation and mission of the family in the church and in the contemporary, and here we are, parents, being canonized. What a wonderful, So, if you are married, you can be. We are all called to be saints. Very soon we shall be celebrating All Saints. In the next 3 weeks we'll be celebrating the Feast of All Saints. We are all called to holiness. Married, unmarried, priests, religious, and here is a wonderful example that yes, even in the midst of all difficulties or whatever, there are faithful Catholic families. And I think we should be able to show them as examples. And what is happening with the canonization, with this canonization, I think it's a special gift, for us to strengthen Catholic families that are struggling in the midst of all difficulties to live out their vocation as parents.
To encourage prayer for the Synod Fathers and the discussions, the relics of Saint Therese of Lisieux and her parents were displayed in the Basilica of St. Mary Major in Rome. They remained there for the entirety of the Synod on the Family, available for veneration during all of the opening hours of the church. Major meetings on the family officially wrapped up in Rome at the end of last week. Over the course of 3 weeks, bishops and cardinals of the world have been developing a clearer idea of the situation of the family in the world today. Praying, discussing, improving how the Church accompanies families in their hopes and trials, in their realities. To kick off the week, on Sunday, Pope Francis canonized 4 people, among them the parents of Saint Therese of Lisieux. Louis and Zélie Martin became the first ever married couple to be made saints together. Very fitting during this family synod. Then back into the Synod Hall on Monday. The mission of the family today was the theme of this week's talks. The first half of the week was dedicated to small breakout group discussions, speaking about strengthening families, preparing couples properly for marriage, the family's role in evangelization, procreation, and the challenges of educating children in the faith. Also, the hot-button issues, reaching out to the divorced and remarried, the Church's care for those who live together before marriage, and outreach to those with same-sex attraction. During the entirety of the Synod, a total of more than 1,300 proposals were made to modify and improve the basic document guiding the Synod discussions. This is known as the Instrumentum Laboris. Many describe the document as insufficient. A 10-man drafting committee worked to summarize and synthesize the Synod Fathers' proposals with the support of experts of the Synod Organizing Committee. They produced a final document as a result. On Saturday, they voted on this document, giving the Pope an account of their work and proposing their counsel to him. This document was published Saturday night in preliminary form, but only in Italian. From here, Pope Francis is expected to produce a final concluding document called an Apostolic Exhortation to provide the Church with guidelines on caring for families into the future. For the last time, on October the 25th, nearly 300 bishops and cardinals united after the work of the Synod in St. Peter's Basilica for a solemn closing Mass with Pope Francis. It was a moment of fraternal unity before the bishops would return back to their respective continents, countries, and dioceses.
A questo sono chiamati I discepoli di Gesù.
Jesus' disciples are called to this even today, especially today, to bring people into contact with a compassionate mercy that saves. When humanity's cry, like Bartimaeus, becomes stronger still, there is no other response than to make Jesus' words our own and above all imitate his heart. Moments of suffering and conflict are for God occasions of mercy. Today is a time of mercy.
Oggi è tempo di misericordia.
After the Mass, Pope Francis prayed the Angelus and thanked everybody for the past 3 weeks.
Invito tutti a rendere grazie a Dio per queste
I invite all to give thanks to God for these 3 weeks of intensive work, animated by a spirit of prayer and true communion. It was tiring, but it was a true gift of God that will certainly bring lots of fruit. The word synod means to walk together, and that is the experience that we have lived through, a church underway, on a path specifically with the families of the people of God, dispersed in all the world.
Sparso in tutto il mondo.
How often in your families do you feel powerless in the face of painful and apparently insoluble situations? How many people find it a constant struggle to forgive long-standing grudges or to overcome deeply rooted feelings of anger, hostility, jealousy, and resentment? At moments like this, should we not trust in Mary's loving intercession, confident that the most hopeless of human situations can be transformed by the saving power of Jesus, who, in answer to her request, turned water into wine, of Jesus who died on the cross that we might live forever.
St. Joseph fulfilled his vocation as the father of the Holy Family by teaching Jesus the importance of quiet fidelity to work, prayer and observance of the precepts of the law. Jesus' unique relationship with his Heavenly Father was reflected in the prayer life of the Holy Family and stands at the heart of all Christian prayer. May the example of the Holy Family inspire all Christian families to be schools of prayer, where parents and children alike came to know that closeness to God, which we joyfully celebrate in these days of Christmas.
Per portare avanti una famiglia è necessario usare 3 parole: permesso, grazie e scusi.
Covering the Synod of Bishops live. EWTN aired in 3 languages, 6 days a week, for the whole 3 weeks. This is what it looks like behind the scenes.
For now, I'm Mary Shevlin.
Hasta la próxima. Ich wünsche Ihnen noch einen guten Abend und einen gesegneten Sonntag.